Good morning and rise and shine Franklin County bright and early on this Friday morning. We hope that you've had a great week at work or a great week at school. And if you're one of those lucky folks who are retired, we know that you have already had a great week and hey, you're looking forward to the weekend. We're going to kick off our show here on Friday morning talking about the Franklin County Moonshine Heritage Month, which we're right in the middle of. We've got a lot of things going on and we do not want you to miss out on it because last Friday we had David Rotenizer on with the tourism department in Franklin County, kind of kicking off the month and giving us a little bit of a hint into some of the events that we're going to be coming up. But we've got a set of guests for you that we're going to kick off the show with. We're going to be talking about some of the events that are going on and some of the things that are going to be happening starting as close as this weekend. So if you would, introduce yourself and who you're representing this morning.
I'm Linda Stanley from the Franklin County Historical Society, and we're talking about the Moonshine Express.
Absolutely.
I'm Anna Perlman from Twin Creeks Distillery, and we're talking about our grand opening tomorrow.
I'm Chris Perlman and with Twin Creeks Distillery, and I'm here to just talk about tomorrow, right?
That's right. So, you know, a lot of the events that are happening with this Moonshine Heritage, some of them are starting here early in the month. You know, you guys are going to have your grand opening. I know you had a taste testing, I believe it was yesterday. So some of those events we're going to be talking about. Moonshine Express, you were on to talk about that a couple weeks ago, and we're going to be kind of just hinting. Probably tickets are starting to get a little bit slim, we hope.
They are getting slim. We need them slimmer.
That's right. And then also, though, we're kind of kicking off the show talking about the jars that are around because that's kind of an ongoing thing, but it's only going to run through about the middle part of the month. So if we could start out talking about that.
Well, we have the Moonshine Express passports. These are around town in various businesses, including Twin Creeks Distillery. So what happens is you come by the History Museum right beside the hospital and get the passport, which looks like this, and inside are the different businesses in Rocky Mount that are participating. So you go in and you find this jar somewhere in the building, and an employee initials it, then you bring it back to the museum, and you're in the drawing for a great prize. We've got a bucket that's almost so heavy I can't pick it up. It's a metal bucket. You have to be 21 to participate because of what we give away. But we have even moonshine lip gloss. We've got all kinds of moonshine themed goodies in the box. So what you do is you bring in your completed passport. You'll see a sign like this that says find the jar here at the businesses that are participating. Once it's full, you come into the museum, get it validated, and then your name goes in the bucket to draw for this moonshine bucket of goodies. But everybody that finishes a passport gets a little prize. Well, actually, it's a pretty good little prize. And the ones that get just a few of them still get a prize. So you still need to come in if you don't get but 5 or 6 done. We're excited. It's going to be fun. We're hoping to enlarge it next year. This year we just did businesses in town, and we did a lot of our sponsors. I don't know if anybody's been in town, but Haywood's Jewelers on Franklin Street has a wonderful display. I'm not going to say it's stuff from his family, but well, it is. But he has a lot of moonshine-related things from Mill Point, West Virginia, where a lot of people said they went to college around here. They go to jail, and they said they were going to college up there. But there's a display in his windows, and he's also one of our sponsors. So you'll find the moonshine jars sticking right in his window, too.
Absolutely. And talking about Rocky Mount, and one of the newest businesses in Rocky Mount, if not the newest, you still may be the newest at this point, going to be having an open house, ribbon cutting tomorrow. You guys, congratulations. Great location right beside the Harvester Performance Center.
Yeah, we got a lot of stuff as far as the products that you know was kind of true to the county, you might say. We start off making pure grain whiskey like corn whiskey, which is just pure corn and rye and malt, and we make it, and then we sugar it back for our first sugar product. And that's the old timers and stuff. They used to talk about first sugar, and that right there is how it come to be, because they'd make what they call a sweet mash and make corn whiskey, and then they'd sugar it back as spent mash, and that'd make first sugar. So that's 2 products we have: the corn and the first sugar. And then we made some rye whiskey, and then we've got peach, apple, pear, and blackberry brandy. So we've got several different things to try.
Absolutely. And again, all of that's going to be happening tomorrow on Saturday. It's going to be a full day. I think you said starting at 11.
11 to 8.
And then ribbon cutting there at 2.
At 2.
So, I mean, lots of things to get in there, and a good opportunity to get in and see all the great work that you guys have put into the building.
Yeah, well, it ain't so much about drinking. You know, it's a lot of people ain't into drinking and stuff. And I like to highlight on the history and the hard times and the way of life that these people had to live, you know, because that's what it's about to me, more so than it is a drinking thing. I mean, we got coffee, and we'll probably have plenty of water too for those who don't want to drink a whiskey. So y'all come right on. It ain't so much about drinking. If you want to just come in and kind of check out. And we've got a little copper submarine type steel that a real good friend of mine had, which is dead now, but he taught me a lot over a period of time about different things, and we've got a little setup back in the back of our tasting room. It's pretty true to the county. It's a little copper submarine with a little wooden 50-gallon thumper, and got a little homemade water box there. It'd be kind of like something you'd probably seen back in the woods in the 50s and 60s or something, before the black pot type steels got to be so popular. So y'all just come right on and see it.
Yeah, and talking about the history, with Linda, we kind of talked about that a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about the Moonshine Express. Now we're right here with the Moonshine Heritage Month. How important is that history into what you guys are doing there?
Well, it's important to me, History's an important thing because most always repeats itself, so it's a good thing to keep up with it, I reckon you might say. So it just, it was a way of life back in, and some of the best people that I've ever knew, that was their livelihood, and they's just good folks. It just so happened that, that they was doing something other that didn't exactly add up with all the laws, but anyway, they was doing what they thought they needed to, and I can appreciate somebody for that, so it's a whole lot there.
Absolutely. And if somebody has not realized that you guys are in Rocky Mount, kind of guide and direct them with some of the landmarks of where you guys are located.
Next to the Harvester Performance Center would probably be the first big thing, and across the street from Rocky Mountain Burger Company. Now in the early end, I know it was Keister Greer's home place, I believe, downtown Rocky Mount. So it's kind of a rejuvenation, hopefully, down there.
Absolutely.
It's very interesting because the History Museum used to be there, and we had our still out back, so it's kind of come the whole circle around. We
That's
had
right.
Still out back.
It all goes in a circle,
It's all about the history, that's what we say.
Absolutely.
And it really is. When you come on the Moonshine Express, you'll hear why people made liquor, what happened to them when they did, and you'll also hear that, as Chris says, some of the most of the movers and the shakers and the people that really made the community are the people who were making liquor. If the roof came off the schoolhouse or the church, they didn't call somebody out in the out in community. They called the bootlegger because they knew first he had the money, second he'd do it, and he would come and do it. There's just many instances of that. We talk about a couple of them on the tour. Our church lady tells about her husband and all the things he did, so she's pretty good. And this year we've got we've got the medicine woman. We talk about various things, but maybe one of the highlights is I found that Playboy magazine, which nobody will be reading, but I did find that has a story about when they featured, I think it was 1986, when they featured Sheriff Overton Sr., and B.A. Davis Jr., the attorney, and they discussed making liquor. Of course, you got to go all the way through the magazine to find it. It's right in the middle, but anyway.
Well,
but we talk about that, and we talk about how that at the time, both of them, the sheriff and the attorney, said that it was just tax evasion, and they couldn't fault anybody for evading taxes, because how many people do that? April 15th coming up.
They was prideful people. They worked and done what they need to do to make a living, even though it risked their freedom.
Absolutely.
They done what they need to do instead of laying around the house on the couch waiting for the government to bring them a check every month to the mailbox, and then crying when the mail was late.
Yep.
They got out and done what they need to do to make their own way. And I got the utmost respect for them kind of folks, just to tell you the truth about it. And she's talking about how that the schoolhouse roof blow off and they'd call somebody's in the whiskey business. A good friend of mine said that when he was young, said it was a preacher. They was going to build a church up in the mountain, and he said this preacher went around door to door, trying to collect a little money to help them get started, for the building fund, and said stopped and seen this old guy that was known to have money and known to be pretty big in the whiskey business, and the preacher went in talking to him and said, well, Mr. I ain't gonna say his name, but anyway, he said, Mr. So-and-so, he said, we're building a church, and he said, I'd like for you to know that we need all the help we can get financially, and if you could spare us a few dollars, we'd really appreciate it. And he said, well, I'm gonna be honest with you, preacher. He said, I'd be glad to give you some money. He said, but I want you to know right up front that this money that I'm gonna be giving you, I made it with whiskey, He said, that's how I made my money. And that preacher said, well, we'll be glad to take it. He said, it's been the devil's hands long enough, he said. So he didn't turn that money down, you know, when I got started on that church. So
Absolutely.
So many places out in Southwest County that we can just tell all kinds of stories about good people, our kin people. You know, you remember I'm not from here, but I wound up being kin to everybody out there. And on the bus this time we'll have, I think it's counting my grandchildren, I think we'll have 10 members of my family that are really honest to goodness cousins. So, you know, it's a family thing to yet. Like we like to say, we're still making money off of liquor. Y'all, us, you know, we like to say we're doing it legal now, but anyway. And of course, Chris can tell you that it's hard to make it legal. It'd be a whole lot easier to go out in the woods and do it if you didn't count having to run, and you didn't have to count being worried about your freedom and what was going to happen to you.
yeah, it's definitely a tough business, but you gotta love it, you know. And like I said, the people that I grew up with, they just the most interesting folks you ever seen, you know. And it always just, I don't know, just that kind of lifestyle just kind of flung a craving on me. I'm glad I didn't come along earlier than I did, because I'd have probably been one of them visitors to Mill Point, probably, much as I like it. But.
But and kind of talking about that and, you know, going legal and opening up your business, you know, it seems, as you kind of alluded to, it would have been easier just to continue to make your product, sell your product. You know, there's a lot of work that goes into that. But then when you talk about making your product, selling your product, now you've got to promote your product, you've got to run a business, you've got to keep everybody happy as far as the government's concerned and health inspectors. You know, why do that? Why do you think, why was it important to you to go straight into, you know, being a pivotal member of our community as far as your business goes?
Well, it's about the history and those, you know, and they got all these shows and things on television. I'm not saying anything against that, but, you know, a lot of that stuff, they portray an image of you know, a bunch of snaggletooth folks. It's just backwards as they can be, you know, Snuffy Smith type characters and all of that. And the people that I knew and the ones I grew up with, like I said, they're some of the most creative, ingenuitive people that I've ever been around, you know. And I mean, they just, like I said, they done what they was handed down. And that's more about that to me than it is really the business end of it. I just want to shed light on the way of life here in this county and the folks that I grew up with, and because I always run with the older crowd. And that being said, old time music is what led me to that. And like on our whiskey bottle label, we've got a little fiddle on there. And my great grandpa, he was kind of I guess a kingpin in the 35 conspiracy here in the county. He was big in the whiskey business, which I guess everybody was back at that time. But anyway, he was an old-time fiddle player. And but when I was just a little boy, my granddaddy, Bill Burnett, he carried me around, and my daddy, they'd carry me around to different little gatherings around up in the mountains and stuff, you know, on back porch pickings and things. And I loved that music. And there would be them old fellas in them overalls and them boots and them big old hats, rod back a knocking on the banjo or something and sawing a tune. Looked like the happiest people in the world. And I said, Lord, if I can get in on that, I'm going to do it. So, so I followed that music. And then when you get in that mountain up there and you get to know this and then know that and this and that and the other, first thing you know, you get to know a little about this, a little about that. And, you know, just one thing leads to another. And then first thing you know, you'll be made that circle we was talking about.
See, it worked real good. And you know, when you come on the tour, the Moonshine Express, you hear about how that the bootleggers, the whiskey makers, were chemists. They didn't know they were, but they had to know how to make the product. They had to be mathematicians. They were very learned, even if they didn't know they were. It came down, as Chris says, it came down from the families and from being around people. And I don't know, I like to think that the young people then, I don't know, I don't want to say they were better. They were more in tune with history, in tune with nature, in tune with what's going on in the world. Today, there's a lot of things to pull them in different directions. So
they were in tune with the work ethic back then.
Yeah, it was a different work ethic. That is exactly right. So, you know, and maybe we'll get back to that one of these days. I think we might be, you know, going a little bit back. Cause
probably going to have to when them handouts stop one of these days.
Yeah, and one of the ways that you talked about it, reaching that younger crowd, I know that you had the opportunity to go and talk to the kids at New Tech. At the Giroux Center,
yeah, you know,
a couple months ago.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. Them kids, some of them was sleeping, and some of them was laughing, and some of them was really paying attention. You know, all kind of different interests in there. You know, some of them wasn't a bit, and then some of them was really interested. You know, some of them wasn't a bit interested, but it's really you meet a lot of people. That's one thing I like about it too. I like meeting people and talking and all of that, and this type business. You know, it's people we go do tastings in Richmond and Charlottesville and all around, and you just get to talk to a lot of people, and you hear a lot of stories from different parts of the state and different parts of the country as far as that goes. And it's just really interesting to get out and meet all these folks and stuff. So yeah, I enjoy it, but it's a lot of hardships in it too.
Absolutely.
Are we going to have music tomorrow?
You know, everybody that I would gather that would come around and play is going off elsewhere to play, so I ain't gonna be able to have nobody come around.
I hate that. You may have to bring your fiddle and just pat.
You just play solo. If I'd done that, it would be solo where y'all couldn't hear.
Probably going to be a little bit busy tomorrow. So
yeah.
Cut him a little slack.
I wish we could have a tune, but I was talking about that music. I got to tell you this: it was a guy that was helping me a little bit in the beginning, was telling me about how to advertise this, that, and the other. And he told me, he said, you know, he said, I just don't get that fiddle on your label. He said, this is a whiskey bottle. What about that fiddle? And I told him, I said, well, that goes to show you ain't from these parts, because I said, you know, it's you play a little tune, take a little drink. I mean, it all kind of runs hand in hand. And so that's the reason we got the fiddle logo on there. And a lot of these old time musicians and stuff, you know, that was what they done. They made a little whiskey. And took pride in their product, and took pride in their music too. And like I said, that's the kind of folks that always interested me. So here we go.
There you go. And talking about ways that people can kind of follow you guys, most importantly, come and visit you at your location. That's the best way that you can stay involved. Just go and just have a talk with you guys.
And we got coffee. There's a guy, Rock, up in Endicott, up there to the St. James, used to be a school church up there in Endicott, the Rock Church. And I guess he's probably the only man in Franklin County that's roasted coffee, I reckon. But anyway, he's doing it right in Endicott. I guarantee he's got the prize on that, because I little doubt anybody else has ever roasted coffee in Endicott. But
and you'll see him in our tour book too.
Yeah, and he's got his fresh coffee there where he's roasted, you know, and we sell that there in the distillery. It's right interesting little place to come into. So
we've got a TV with some old videos, pictures and artifacts, as I call them, and we've got a bunch of door prizes that we're going to be giving away. So I think some of the coffee may be one of them, but t-shirts and Buddy's Barbecue, gift certificates, and we'll have gift certificates. So
and for all of y'all that think it's about a drinking thing, like I said, we got the coffee, and we're gonna have water, and all we can pour out's just a child's portion anyway, so it ain't gonna be no drunks there, because we can't give enough to get nobody drunk.
Right, per ABC,
So
3 ounces
it ain't gonna be no big drinking event. It's just we shedding a little light on history for the most part. So
the quality of the spirit. But some people prefer cocktails, which is why we've got the menu. But yeah.
And kind of as we start to wrap up our conversation, you guys have said it, all three of you have kind of have hit on it, and especially you guys here, that you had some names there. You had Buddy's Barbecue, you had this coffee that's roasted in Endicott, you're wearing a Virginia's for Lovers hat.
You know, that lady told me that, give me this, she told me, she said, you wear them hats and I'll keep you stocked up on.
There you go.
I said, I can do that. So.
They're nice hats,
yeah.
How important is it to bring the community together like that? I mean, you just named off 3 or 4 different community folks.
It's a big thing, and I'll tell you something else. You look up there at Floyd, what they doing up there in Floyd. I mean, you can go up Floyd on Friday night, and the streets is teetotally full of people on a warm spring night, summer night. You know, I mean, they come from everywhere up there to hear that old time music and see that way of life and see the history of it. And then it's just I mean, Floyd, golly, it's a stoplight in a country store, but they doing great big things, you know. So maybe one of these warm nights here for Long Rocky Mountain will be standing full of people in the streets or something, you know, listening to some old time music.
Absolutely, I don't think we're far off from that, and I think you guys are going to be a big part of that. So again, we want you to remember to get out and find these jars. You'll be seeing these in the different businesses, but you got to go to the Historical Society first to get your passport for the Moonshine Express passport program. You can win lots of prizes. Moonshine Express tickets, tell us a little bit about those before we close.
We still have departures right now on 3:15, and the tickets are $15 a person. It's Sunday, April 14th at the Benjamin Franklin Middle School. We do suggest you call us first because the buses do fill up. We'll probably put on another bus, but we have to sell this one first. Commonwealth Coach and Trolley brings their antique buses for us. We couldn't do it without them. Got some wonderful drivers this year, some seasoned ones, so they know all about us. And of course, you can come to Gawker's Row for free out at the middle school. There's people to talk to. Chris will be there and a couple other distillers, the legal guys. And then my cousin Lane will be there to show how the still would have worked if, you know, back when he might have been doing things not legal. And there's then the guy who caught the biggest steal in Virginia right across the line will be there to tell about how he did it and bring his little book of pictures. And Henry Lee Law, our national TV star, will be there, of course, with his books. And we're just going to have a good time. Now, you can do all that for free. If you want to ride the bus, it's $15. We'll have live music. Roger Dawson Friends will be there. Buddy's Barbecue showing up with food. Got to buy that, but anyway. And I'm sure there's some other things I can't think of, but just come. There'll be lots of fun.
Absolutely.
Right.
You guys having your open house? Invite people out.
Open house 11 to 8. It's free. The ribbon cutting's at 2. Cocktails, spirits, giveaways. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We've got a website, twincreeksdistillery.com. And come see us at 510 Franklin Street beside the Harvester.
Absolutely. You can't miss it. It's right there, right on the corner. If you come by the hospital, once you get to that intersection, right there. Don't go through the building. We don't need that.
We ain't got the best sign it ever was, you know. I mean, the sign on our building looks like it's hid behind a camouflage net, but it looks so good on the computer when we ordered the thing. Then it come and it didn't look like what we was ordering. But anyway, we'll get a better sign one of these days. Y'all just get on the west side of the Harvester and right there we are in the Jones building. So it ought not be no trouble to find us.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys for coming out bright and early. I know, Linda, it's really early for you. Probably not as early
for me.
As early for Chris.
No,
He's probably used to getting up early.
Up pretty early.
But again, we thank you guys for coming out and promoting not only the Moonshine Express, but your open house and your business. And we thank you guys for making this Moonshine Heritage Month here in Franklin County. I know it's kind of the first year, just kind of getting the ball rolling. David said next year I'm going to go hard and heavy on things. But again, for just being a part of our community, we appreciate that.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank y'all for having us.